Why did you let a 10-second interaction destroy your entire 24-hour day? You think it's their fault, but the brutal truth is, it's yours. You are holding the remote control to your own life, yet you keep handing it to strangers. Here is the secret to taking it back, forever. Let's be honest with each other for a moment. Have you ever felt like your entire day was hijacked by a single 10-second interaction? Maybe it was a rude comment from a coworker that caught you off guard, slicing through your confidence like a razor. Maybe it was a thoughtless gesture from a partner, a forgotten promise, or even something as trivial as an unexpected inconvenience, a stranger cutting you off in traffic, flashing a gesture that makes your blood boil. You were having a good morning. The sun was shining, the coffee tasted right, your mind was clear, and then, snap, it's gone. Your calm vanishes, instantly replaced by a sudden hot rush of anger or a sinking feeling of frustration that settles in your gut like a stone. You spend the next hour, maybe even the rest of the day, stewing in it. You replay the moment over and over in your head, refining the script. You think of what you should have said. You obsess over how unfair it was. You think, why did they have to ruin my day? Why does the world have to be this way? I know this feeling intimately. For years, I lived my life like a leaf in the wind. If the breeze was gentle, I was happy. If a storm rolled in, I was a wreck. I used to think this was normal. I thought, of course I'm angry. That guy was a jerk. Or, of course I'm sad. She didn't text me back. I believed my emotions were the inevitable, automatic result of what happened to me. A simple chemical reaction I had no say in. Welcome to Glaze English. But here is the hard truth. A truth that might sting a little, but will ultimately set you free. A truth that most people spend their entire lives running away from. No one has the power to ruin your day unless you hand them the remote control. Think about that image for a second. Really visualize it. Imagine your emotional state is a high-tech television set. You are holding the remote. You decide whether to watch the Peace and Focus channel or the Rage and Resentment channel. But what most of us do, unconsciously, every single day, is walk around handing that remote control to complete strangers. We hand it to the barista who messes up our order. We hand it to the aggressive driver on the highway. We hand it to the passive-aggressive colleague. We essentially say to them, "Here, you decide how I feel for the next 4 hours. I surrender my peace to your whims." When you look at it that way, it seems insane, doesn't it? Why would you give authority over your inner world to people who don't know you, don't care about you, and probably won't even remember the interaction 5 minutes from now? Why do we volunteer to be victims of other people's bad moods? Before we go any further into reclaiming that power, if you feel ready to stop being a leaf in the wind, take a second to hit that subscribe button. It helps us keep these conversations going and supports the channel in bringing you more deep dives into the mind. This isn't about pretending not to care. It's not about suppression or putting on a brave face while you scream internally. It is about realizing that there is a fundamental mechanic in the human mind that we often ignore. We tend to believe the equation is simple. Stimulus leads to response. Someone yells, I get angry. It feels automatic, like a reflex, like touching a hot stove. But the Austrian neurologist and Holocaust survivor Viktor Frankl introduced a concept that changed my life. He discovered, in the most horrific conditions imaginable, that between the stimulus and the response, there is a space, and in that space lies our power to choose our response. In our response lies our growth and our freedom. Most of us have never visited that space. We live on autopilot, reacting instantly, enslaved by our own biology. The journey to becoming unbothered, to achieving true emotional mastery, is simply the practice of widening that gap. It is the practice of hitting the pause button before the program runs. Let's look at this through the lens of expectations, because this is where the friction usually starts. Why do we get so angry when people are rude? It is because we are walking around with a secret rule book in our heads. We have a script for how the world should work. We think people should be polite, drivers should use turn signals, friends should always be supportive. When reality clashes with your secret rule book, you suffer. This is what psychologists might call the egocentric bias, the assumption that others should share our values, our pacing, and our priorities. But here is the reality check. People do not operate by your standards. They operate by their own. They are driven by their own traumas, their own stress, their own upbringing, and their own bad days. Expecting a chaotic, stressed-out person to act calm and rational just because you are calm and rational is like screaming at the rain for making you wet. It is not the rain's fault. It is the nature of rain to fall. It is not the rude person's fault for being rude. At that moment, they are acting according to their nature and their current state of mind. When you stop expecting people to be like you remove the fuel from the fire of your frustration. Imagine you are wearing high-quality, noise-canceling headphones in the middle of Times Square. The chaos is still there. The honking taxis, the shouting tourists, the jackhammers. You can see it. You are aware of it. But it doesn't touch you. The noise is there, but the disturbance is not. That is the state we are aiming for. It is not about controlling the world. It is about controlling the volume knob in your own head. So, the first step is a declaration of independence. You have to decide right now that your peace is too expensive to be bought so cheaply by a stranger's bad mood. You have to decide that you are the only one holding the remote control. The next time you feel that surge of heat, that instinct to snap back or shut down, I want you to find that space. Take a breath. Look at the situation as if you were a scientist observing a lab rat. Ask yourself, am I going to let this external event dictate my internal reality? Because the moment you realize that your reaction is a choice, you stop being a victim of your circumstances and start being the master of your experience. Now that we have established that we hold the remote control, we need to dig deeper into why we so often feel compelled to hand it away. Why is it so hard to make that choice to remain calm? Why is it that even when we know we should stay unbothered, we feel this burning, desperate need to jump into the fray? This brings us to the most uncomfortable, yet most liberating part of our journey, the trap of our own ego. If we are being brutally honest with ourselves, most of our anger and frustration doesn't come from a place of justice or righteousness. It comes from insecurity. It comes from a fragile sense of self that feels threatened the moment it is challenged. Let's talk about the need to be right. We have all been there. You are in a discussion, maybe about politics, maybe about the best route to the airport, Maybe about something that happened 3 years ago that you just can't let go of. The conversation heats up. You know you are right. You have the facts. You have the logic. But the other person just won't concede. They are digging in their heels, maybe even mocking your perspective. What happens to you physically in that moment? Your heart rate spikes. Your palms sweat. Your voice gets tighter and higher. You feel an almost primal urge to crush their argument, to prove them wrong, to force them to say those magic words. You know what? You win. But let me ask you a question that I have had to ask myself 1,000 times in the mirror. Would you rather be right, or would you rather be at peace? Because you often cannot be both. The need to win every argument is exhausting. It is a heavy suit of armor to wear 24 hours a day. We think that if we admit we are wrong, or even if we just stop arguing, we are showing weakness. We think our intelligence and our worth are on the line. But that is the ego talking. The ego believes that if it is not dominant, if it is not the smartest person in the room, it doesn't exist. True confidence, the kind that makes you truly unbothered, is quiet. It doesn't need to prove itself. If you know the sky is blue and someone screams at you that it is green, you don't feel the need to argue with them. You might feel confused, or maybe even pity for them, but you don't feel angry. You don't feel the need to destroy them. You just walk away knowing the truth. When you find yourself getting worked up in an argument, it is usually because a part of you is afraid that maybe, just maybe, you aren't as smart or as respected as you hope to be. This leads us to the second, perhaps even deadlier trap, the trap of external validation. We live in a culture that is obsessed with what others think. We curate our lives for social media. We dress for others. We speak for others. We let the words of others define our worth. Imagine you spend years building a beautiful, intricate house. You pour your heart and soul into every brick, but you build it on land that you simply rented for a week. That is what it is like to build your self-esteem on the opinions of others. It is unstable ground. One day they praise you, and you feel like a king. The next day they criticize you, and you feel like a failure. You are homeless the moment their mood changes. I remember a time in my career when I presented a project I was incredibly proud of. I had worked weekends. I had missed dinners. I had poured my creativity into it. During the meeting, one manager, a guy who was known for being difficult, made a dismissive, sarcastic comment about one small detail. Just one sentence. It devastated me. I forgot all the praise I got from the others. I forgot the hard work. I went home feeling worthless. I let one person's unthinking comment rewrite my entire self-image. Why do we do this? It is because we have forgotten who we are. We are looking for mirrors in other people, hoping they will reflect something good back to us. But people are not clear mirrors. They are funhouse mirrors, distorted by their own cracks and flaws. When someone criticizes you unfairly, or judges you, or gossips about you, they are rarely talking about you. They are talking about their own biases, their own jealousies, their own limitations. Marcus Aurelius, the Stoic emperor, once marveled at this paradox. He said, "It never ceases to amaze me. We all love ourselves more than other people, but care more about their opinions than our own. To become unbothered, you must cultivate what I call a Teflon mind. Teflon is a material that nothing sticks to. You want to reach a point where compliments and insults both slide right off you. You can listen to them, you can evaluate them, but you don't let them absorb into your skin. You don't let them reach your heart. This requires a shift in identity. You have to stop asking, "What do they think of me?" and start asking, "What do I know to be true about myself?" If you know you are a hard worker, a lazy comment from a coworker doesn't matter. If you know you are a kind person, a rude accusation from a stranger is just noise. Your worth must be intrinsic. It must be a diamond you carry in your pocket, not a coin you beg for from passers-by. The next time you feel the sting of someone's words, pause. Visualize that comment as a physical object, maybe a muddy rock that they just threw at you. You have a choice. You can catch it, hold it, put it in your pocket, and carry its weight around all day. Or you can simply step aside and let it hit the ground. You can look at it and say, "That's an interesting opinion," and keep walking. This is the freedom of escaping the ego trap. It is the realization that you don't need to be right, and you don't need to be liked by everyone to be valuable. You just need to be true to yourself. When you detach your worth from their approval, you become invincible. Understanding the mindset is one thing, but knowing what to actually do when the heat is on is another. So now that we've fortified our inner worth, we need to build our active defense mechanisms. We have talked about the philosophy, but now we need the tactics. What do you actually do when someone is screaming in your face? What do you say when your boundaries are being pushed to the breaking point? How do you defend your peace without becoming aggressive yourself and adding to the chaos? We need to build your active defense mechanisms, and the two most powerful weapons in your arsenal are things we often mistake for passivity: silence and boundaries. Let's start with silence. In our loud, fast-paced world, we are conditioned to believe that the person who talks the most, or the loudest, wins. We think we need to have the last word to prove we exist. But in the realm of emotional mastery, silence is the ultimate power move. Imagine a fire. What does it need to burn? It needs oxygen. Anger and conflict are exactly the same. They need fuel. They need reaction. They need you to push back so they can push harder. When someone tries to provoke you, whether it's a passive-aggressive dig or an outright shout, they are looking for a sparring partner. They are inviting you into the mud pit with them. When you respond with silence, you deny them the oxygen. You starve the fire. I don't mean the sulking, pouting silence of a child who didn't get their way. I mean the composed, deliberate silence of a master. It is a silence that says, "I hear you, but I am not controlled by you." There is a profound power in the pause. When someone says something hurtful, try this. Do not respond immediately. Look at them calmly. Maintain eye contact. Count to 3 in your head. That 3-second silence does something magical. It creates a vacuum. It forces the other person to sit with their own words hanging in the air. Often, they will start to stumble. They will try to fill the silence. They will backpedal. They realize that their attack didn't land. You didn't flinch. The ancient Stoics knew this. They knew that to be angry is to be a puppet. To be silent is to cut the strings. Silence allows you to process, to check your ego, and to decide if this battle is even worth fighting. Usually, it isn't. But sometimes, silence isn't enough. Sometimes, the noise is too persistent, and you need to speak up to protect your energy. This brings us to boundaries. Many of us, myself included, struggle with boundaries because we confuse them with being mean or selfish. We want to be nice. We want to be helpful. So we say yes when we desperately want to say no. We let people interrupt us. We let them dump their emotional baggage on us. And then we wonder why we are exhausted, resentful, and bitter. Here is the truth. You cannot pour from an empty cup. If you burn yourself out trying to please everyone else, you are of no use to anyone. Not to your family, not to your job, and certainly not to yourself. Setting a boundary is an act of profound self-respect. It is drawing a circle around your energy and saying, "This is sacred space." And, contrary to what you might fear, people actually respect those who have boundaries more than those who have none. Let's get practical. How do you set a boundary without being a jerk? It is about being clear, kind, and firm. You don't need to over-explain. You don't need to apologize for having needs. If a coworker tries to dump a task on you at 5 p.m., instead of saying, "Ugh, fine, I guess I can do it," or snapping, "Leave me alone," try this. "I'm at capacity right now, and I need to leave on time to recharge. I can look at this tomorrow morning." If a friend calls you to gossip and complain for the 3rd time this week, you can say, "I love you and I want to support you, but I've had a long day and I don't have the mental space for a deep conversation tonight. Let's talk on the weekend." Notice the structure. It is not, "You are annoying me." It is, "This is what I need." Use I statements. Focus on your capacity, not their behavior. Once you set a boundary, you have to hold it. This is the hard part. People will test you. Like a toddler testing a bedtime rule, they will push to see if you are serious. If you cave, you teach them that your no actually means maybe. But if you stand firm, eventually they will adjust. They will learn how to treat you. Think of your peace as a fortress. Silence is the moat that keeps the enemy at a distance. Boundaries are the walls that define where you end and where the world begins. You are the gatekeeper. You decide who enters and what energy is allowed inside. We have talked about defense, blocking the negativity. But now, I want to take you to the advanced level, where you don't just survive the fire, you use it. This is the level of the alchemist. An alchemist is someone who can take base, worthless metals and turn them into gold. In our context, it means taking the negativity, the anger, and the criticism thrown at you and transmuting it into something that actually makes you stronger. We are going to use 2 potent ingredients for this alchemy: gratitude and reframing. Let's start with gratitude. I know. It sounds like a cliché greeting card or something you see on an inspirational poster. Just be grateful. But I am not talking about a soft, fluffy feeling. I am talking about a hardwired neurological circuit breaker. Here is the science. The human brain has a very hard time processing 2 opposing emotional states at the exact same time. You cannot be completely consumed by rage and completely immersed in gratitude simultaneously. They use different neural pathways. So, when you feel that red mist of anger descending, maybe you are stuck in a gridlock traffic jam and you are late for a meeting, you have a tool. You can force a system override with gratitude. It feels fake at first. It feels unnatural. That is okay. Do it anyway. In that traffic jam, instead of focusing on the idiot in front of you, force your brain to find 3 things. I am grateful I have a car that works. I am grateful I have air conditioning. I am grateful I have this podcast to listen to. What happens is you interrupt the cortisol spike. You lower your blood pressure. You shift your focus from what is wrong, the delay, to what is right, your safety/comfort. You are dissolving the anger before it can harden into a bad mood. You are stealing the power back from the situation. Now, let's talk about the tougher metal we need to transmute: criticism. Nothing triggers our defenses faster than someone telling us we did something wrong. Our ego screams, "Attack! Attack!" But what if we looked at criticism differently? Imagine you are an athlete. A coach tells you, "Your form is off. You need to tuck your elbow." Do you get offended? Do you say, "You don't respect me"? No. You say, "Thank you," because that information helps you win. In life, criticism, even when it is delivered rudely, can be free consulting. It can be data. When someone attacks you or critiques you, I want you to run it through what I call the Stoic filter. Step 1. Is it true? If there is truth in what they are saying, even if only 10% is true and they said it screaming, then that is gold. Take the gold, ignore the delivery. Use it to improve. Say to yourself, "They are right about that part. I will fix it." You have just turned their attack into your improvement. Step 2. Is it false? If what they are saying is purely based on a misunderstanding, or malice, or their own craziness, then it is truly nothing. It is just wind. Why would you be angry at a lie? If someone walks up to you and says, "You have purple horns growing out of your head," you don't get angry. You think they are hallucinating. Treat false criticism the same way. It is a reflection of their delusion, not your reality. I recall a moment where a client sent me a furious email listing 10 things I had done wrong. My initial reaction was defensive rage. I wanted to write a 10-page rebuttal, but I paused. I used the filter. I looked at the list. 8 of the points were nonsense, just him venting stress. But 2 of them? 2 of them were actual blind spots I had missed. I replied, ignoring the insults and the 8 false points. I simply said, "You are right about point 3 and 7. Thank you for catching that. I will fix it immediately." The result? He was disarmed. The conflict evaporated. And I actually got better at my job. I transmuted his anger into my growth. That is the power of the alchemist. You stop fearing negativity because you know you have the machinery to process it into something useful. We have learned to handle the arrows flying at us right now, but what do we do with the wounds that have already scarred over, the heavy baggage we have been dragging behind us for years? We arrive now at the final and perhaps the most difficult lesson of all: mastering the art of letting go. There is a famous Buddhist teaching that compares holding on to anger to holding on to a hot coal with the intent of throwing it at someone else. You are the one who gets burned. Think about that image. It is visceral, it is painful, and it is exactly what we do. Think about a time when someone wronged you, maybe an ex-partner, a bad boss, or a toxic friend. They are probably out there living their life right now. They might be eating dinner, laughing at a joke, or sleeping soundly. Meanwhile, you are sitting here, gripping that hot coal, searing your own hand, replaying the argument, wishing them ill. Who is suffering in this scenario? Only you. Holding a grudge is like drinking poison and expecting the other person to die. It is an act of self-destruction that we mistake for justice. Letting go is not about them. It is not about saying that what they did was okay or that they deserve your forgiveness. It is a purely selfish act of self-preservation. It is saying, I refuse to let this person rent space in my head for one more day without paying rent. It involves a concept called radical acceptance. It means looking at the situation, the unfairness, the hurt, the mess of it all, and saying, this happened. Not, it shouldn't have happened. Not, why did it happen to me? But simply, it happened. When you stop fighting reality, the tension releases. You realize that the past is a ghost. You cannot change it. You can only ruin your present by obsessing over it. Imagine your mind is a backpack that you carry on a long hike. Every grudge, every resentment, every I should have said that, is a heavy stone you put in that pack. Some of us are hiking up the mountain of life, carrying 50 pounds of rocks from 10 years ago. No wonder we are tired. No wonder we are irritable. The art of letting go is the practice of taking off the pack, looking at the rocks, and setting them down by the side of the trail. You walk away lighter. You walk away free. So, here is my challenge to you. Emotional mastery is not a destination. You don't read this and suddenly become a Zen monk forever. It is a gym. You have to go every day. Some days you will lift heavy. Some days you will fail and drop the weight. That is okay. Start small. Pick one thing today. Maybe it's the traffic. Maybe it's a messy roommate. Decide, just for today, that you will not pick up the rope. Decide that you will be the eye of the storm, calm, centered, and unbothered. Because the ultimate freedom is knowing that while you cannot control what the world throws at you, you are the absolute master of how you catch it. You have the remote control. Don't ever give it away again. Take care of yourself, protect your peace, and I'll see you on the path. To bring this all together, let's take a step back and look at the map we have just drawn. We started by reclaiming the remote control of our emotions, realizing that no one has the authority to ruin our day unless we grant them permission. We confronted the uncomfortable truth about our ego, understanding that the need to be right and the hunger for validation are traps that keep us enslaved to the opinions of others. We built a fortress of solitude using the quiet power of silence and the self-respect of clear boundaries. We learned the alchemy of transmuting anger into gratitude and criticism into data. And finally, we accepted the necessity of dropping the heavy baggage of the past to walk freely into the future. The profound lesson here is that emotional mastery is not about becoming a robot. It is not about never feeling anger, hurt, or frustration again. You are human. You will feel these things. The mastery lies in the realization that you are not your feelings. You are the observer of your feelings. Imagine you are the sky, and your emotions are just the weather. Storms will come, rain will fall, and the wind will howl. But the sky does not get hurt by the storm. It makes space for it. It watches it pass, and it remains vast and untouched behind the clouds. Being unbothered is realizing that while you cannot stop the storm from hitting your life, you can choose to remain the sky rather than getting lost in the rain. To apply this to your life starting right now, I want you to practice just one thing: the pause. The next time the world tests you, and it will test you, probably within the next hour, do not jump to the reaction. Do not let the autopilot take over. Stop. Breathe. Find that tiny space Viktor Frankl talked about. In that space, ask yourself, does this deserve my peace? If the answer is no, let it pass like a cloud. By doing this repeatedly, you are not just managing your anger. You are rewiring your brain to default to peace instead of chaos. You are reclaiming your sovereignty. Now, I have a simple question for you, and I would love to read your answers in the comments below. It helps us all see that we are not alone in this struggle. Here is the question. What is one specific small thing, like traffic, rude comments, or messy roommates, that usually triggers you, but you are choosing to let go of starting today? Leave your answer down below. I read them all, and I think sharing these commitments makes them stronger. And if you found value in this journey today, if you want to keep building a stronger, calmer mind with us, please hit that subscribe button for Glaze English. Your support gives us the motivation to keep diving deep and creating more content to help you navigate this chaotic world. Thank you for watching, and stay unbothered.